Hello guys, welcome to our channel once again. So in our previous video, we have talked about how you can log your Azure Data Factory logs directly into Log Analytics. Now in this video, we'll take that forward to one more steps and we'll talk about how you can utilize those logs to create alerts and how different actions can be triggered from that. Okay, so we'll talk about alert mechanism, action groups in Azure portal, and what all things you can do through that action group. Okay, so we are going to focus mainly on Azure Data Factory and Databricks because in most of your data engineering pipeline, you'll be using these two things. And the logging mechanism for Databricks is slightly different from Azure Data Factory, and that is slightly tricky. So we'll talk about that so that whenever you are implementing this in your data engineering pipeline, you will not have any problem and you'll be able to see and send those error messages from Databricks directly to your consumer. So stay tuned and watch it till the end. As you can see, this workflow depicts how this data will flow from one step to another step. Now, the first step, what you see here is Azure Data Factory is sending log to Log Analytics. This part we have already covered, and I'll give you that link in my description on the I button. You can go and see that. I would highly recommend you to see that first before you continue here. Now, once your log has been available in Log Analytics, what you can do is you can create an alert. When you're creating an alert, you can actually define your own queries based on your requirement. Once this query has been written and if it generates some kind of a result, it goes to action group. Now within action group, you can do multiple things. Here we'll focus more on two things, ITSM and Logic App. Now ITSM is very much specific to ServiceNow. If you have a use case where you want to create a ServiceNow ticket so that your support group or support team can be intimated about any of the failures using their existing workflow, you can use ITSM. Or if you don't want to use ITSM because it has some kind of a limitation, we'll also talk about Logic App. Now using Logic App also you can create ServiceNow ticket, or as you know, with Logic App you can do many other things. You can create an email action also to the support group. Now we'll see how all this can be done. So let's jump into the demo. Now I am in my log analytics workspace and I have written a simple query. What this query does is it will try to find out my last errors or pipeline which has failed. Right? Now you can see with this result set, there are two results which has been written. There are two different pipelines, and I would like to show you the difference between a normal activity and the Databricks activity, how it differs. So what you see here, this is the ADF pipeline where I had a script task which we made it fail, and you can see the error message. It says fail to execute a script task, cannot connect to SQL database. So whatever error messages you see in Data Factory, directly you can see in Log Analytics as well. I'd like to show that in the Data Factory as well. Now you see here this error message because it's a script task failure. You can see exactly same message what we have in Data Factory. You can see in the Log Analytics. Now what happens if you try to do similar thing for Databricks? Now here we have an activity which is to call Databricks notebook, and that notebook we have created an exception which we have raised. Now if you go ahead and see the log error log here, it just says Databricks execution failed with error state terminated, error message, workload failed, see run output details here. Now I'll like to show you how this Databricks notebook looks. So you can see here we have a very simple notebook. Here you may have your real-time data processing, but we just wanted to create an exception, and that exception we are raising, we are saying custom log, we can write whatever log we want to write, that load fail for some table or something, and then you can also update your exception here. Now we have raised the exception, but as I have shown you there, right, in the error message you could not see this. Then what is the mechanism that you can actually track these logs in Log Analytics and send it to the user, because this is the most useful log which you want to show to your support team. So I'll tell you how you can do that. Now I'm back to my Log Analytics. Now this is a Data Factory pipeline which is calling Databricks, as I had shown you there in Data Factory. This message is standard kind of message, and it says that the error message is in output. It means we should look for the output. Now this is my output. Now let's find out where is my actual error message. Now you notice here within the output you have run error which says exception custom message. This is exactly what we had thrown from the Databricks notebook, and this is what actually we want to capture. Then how do you extract this? Because here you have an output which you have captured, but this is in a loop format, it's nested format, right? So how do you extract that? So for that what you need to do, sorry, go to my other tab. How you can extract this is this. So there is a function called parseJSON. You have to pass on your output one to parseJSON, and from the parseJSON you can actually pick the run error. I'll show you that. So this one, you can see the first one, right? So here we have been able to extract this. If you want to see the actual error output one, let me paste that as well. So what we have tried to do is from the output one, we have passed the JSON and we have extracted the run error so that we can pass on that. Yeah. You see this run error. This is the output, right, which has your error message, actual error message. So with this, using this function, we have extracted this. Now this is what you need to pass on, right? So how you create an alert action group? Now let's see that. We'll go back to our log analytics. You need to go to your alert section. Alerts rule. Now, if you don't have any alert rule, you can create it. Now, I have already created an alert rule, so I'll just show that. And with the alert rule, you can also enable and disable it. So here you also have an option to choose the signals which is provided by portal. But in this case, we don't want to use any of the existing one. Instead, you want to do custom log message, and we are choosing this. Now what we have done, within the query, we have pasted the same query which we have run and I showed you in the log analytics, right? What will happen is that when this query is run, it will return something, right? So that will have to provide in your measures. Let's say measures table row, how many rows that query is returning, count. What is your granularity means for how many minutes, how many minutes, what frequency you want to run this. And what you're saying is operator greater than 0. It means if that query returns any uh, any rows, it means there have been some failures, right? If there is no failure, it will not return anything. If there is a failure, it means the number of rows returned is more than 0. So we are saying threshold is 0. It means any result which is more than 0, then you trigger this. Now going back to action group. So what should this alert do in case there is a in case it meets the expectation, right? So here you'll have to define an action group, and this is where actually we can choose what we want to do. So here you can see what all things are available. So you have ITSM, Logic App, Event Hub, Azure Function, a lot of different things are available. So as I told you at the beginning, the ITSM has been used to create ServiceNow ticket directly. So if you choose ITSM, what will happen is it will go and search for the connection. Now this connection you have to create it. I'll tell you how to do that. So you have to create a resource first. You go to all your resources, search for ITSM, and here you'd find IT Service Management Connector. So this you need to create it. So once you create this, at the time of creation, it will ask you to provide a log analytics workspace. I have already created that log analytics workspace, on which I have installed it. So I'll show you how it looks like after the installation, because it changes the name slightly. So once you have created it, it will show you something like this service desk and then your log analytics workspace name where you have installed it. Then what you need to do is you go to your ITSM connections. Yeah. Now I have already added it, but to have this connection, you also need to have a instance, ServiceNow instance. So for testing purpose, what I had done is ServiceNow actually allows you to create a developer account or developer instance. You can create that free of cost, and that connection details I had given here. So what you need to have at least is dev instance URL, username, password, and it also requires you to have service principal which has access to ServiceNow. Okay, so once you have created these connections, you can actually configure it. However, I have come across multiple issues with this because the service principal which I was creating, probably it was not getting the right permissions. That's why it was not going through. So I tried with Logic app and that did work. And when you use a Logic app, you don't need service principal. Only your username and password is enough. I'll show that. So before you use your Logic app, you need to have one Logic app application which is of HTTP triggered. It will not accept anything other than HTTP trigger. So make sure that your Logic app has to be triggered through HTTP. Now, you can actually select an action which is to create record on ServiceNow. It is available a standard connection, and you can add the connection. I have already added it, but I'll show you one more time. So you can see connection name. You have to give a instance name, username, and password. So if these things are correct, it will actually create a connection for you. With that connection, you can create a ServiceNow ticket. So I want to show you one of my previous runs so that it's clear, because there are some limitation with this method as well. So this is clear. Now Logic app has been added. This is existing Logic app which I'm using. So I'll remove ITSM and we'll keep only Logic app. So in this case, what will happen is whenever that alert is fired, it will trigger my Logic app. So let me show you the previous runs of my Logic app. So the limitation I was talking about was this. So this is what it passes. So ultimately, I want to show this. It follows a fixed schema. The thing is, even though you have written some query in your Logic app to select the error message, it is not possible through this mechanism to pass those messages, because it will pass only these metrics, search queries, metric measure, columns, operator, threshold. But you notice that there is no error message, even though we have selected that in our query. So what it does is actually based on the alert mechanism or the criteria, it just passes on the things which has been configured in Microsoft. So you cannot pass on the message. Instead, only thing you can pass on is this search criteria. So this URL can be added into your ServiceNow ticket. So if you go ahead and use this URL, actually it will take you to the query which you have used. So this is also one of the mechanism that you can pass on this message so that your support staff can go and check the query which has run and they can check the result. But the only thing is that they need to have access and they need to know how to run these things, right? So this is one of the limitations, because of which I feel like Microsoft should have given some way to pass on the message. So if you're still going ahead and using this, then actually you can pass on that complete URL in terms of short description, or you can pass it on as a additional comment so that support team can make use of it. So we have talked about some of the limitations and how you can implement it. So it's based on your design, how you want to carry it forward. If you don't want to do any kind of custom coding or something, then you can definitely make use of this. But if you really want to pass on the message, there is another way that you can do. Is you can use the HTTP REST API from ServiceNow. So you can extract your messages from the log analytics through REST API again, and you can also create ServiceNow ticket through REST API. We'll try to cover that in our next video. Till then, thanks for watching and please subscribe, share these videos. Thank you.